Central Metro Terminal breathes and grinds, boards flip, doors hiss, trains shiver the tile. People move like they own the next minute. Officer Ethan Cole threads through the crowd without touching it. K9's shadow stays quiet. Working. Then he shifts. Not a lunge. A change in weight. A nose angle. A maintenance vest moves against the flow. A gray case bumps a knee. Eyes don't land. The door ahead says authorized only. The dog starts to breathe differently. The evening rush at Central Metro Terminal sounded like a living machine. Departure boards clicked and flipped. Announcements rolled over the speakers in a practiced, soothing voice. The distant thunder of high-speed trains vibrated through the tiled floors, blending with the scrape of rolling suitcases, the chatter of travelers, and the tinny echo of a live band playing upbeat covers in the central concourse for a rail promotion. Officer Ethan Cole moved through it all like a calm center in a storm. His dark uniform blended into the blur of security staff, but his eyes missed nothing. He tracked the flow of bodies, the bottlenecks at the ticket kiosks, the line at security where an argument was brewing over a carry-on bag. Every time he passed an exit or service door, his mind automatically tagged it. Potential entry point. Potential escape route. At his side, K9's shadow padded quietly, claws clicking softly against the stone. The German Shepherd's black and tan coat caught glints of neon and advertisement screens. His vest read police in reflective letters, the edges glowing white every time someone's phone camera flashed. To most people, this was a convenience hub, a place you rush through on the way to somewhere else. For Ethan, it was a chessboard that never stopped shifting. He reached down and brushed his fingers over Shadow's neck as they paused near the edge of the central concourse. "Crowd's heavier than usual," Ethan murmured. Shadow's ear twitched in acknowledgement, but his gaze stayed on the moving river of people. A kid with a balloon, a woman in a red coat juggling two phones, a group of students, laughing too loudly, shouldering backpacks that looked overstuffed. The band hit the chorus of a song from 10 years ago. People clapped along. Somewhere, a coffee cup hit the ground and spilled. The smell of espresso cutting through the faint metallic tang of train brakes. It felt normal. Ethan didn't trust normal. He checked the time. The evening express from the northern corridor would be in within the hour, stacked in between two commuter arrivals. 3 trains, 5 platforms, 12 minutes of overlapping traffic. Plenty of room for chaos if someone wanted it. Shadow shifted. It was small, a change in the set of his shoulders, the angle of his head. Ethan felt it before he fully registered it. Years of working together had wired Ethan's nervous system to his dog's. "What is it, partner?" he said softly. Shadow's nose lifted, then pointed not straight ahead, but slightly off to the right, toward one of the side corridors that led to service areas and restricted doors. Ethan followed his gaze. A slim young man in a yellow maintenance vest walked briskly against the flow of traffic. A heavy gray tool case bounced at his side with each step. He moved like he knew where he was going, but too quickly, like someone trying to look casual and overshooting it. Ethan watched him pass a posted station map without glancing at it. That wasn't odd for someone who worked here every day. What snagged Ethan's attention was the way the guy's eyes skipped over everything and everyone, never landing for more than a second. No idle glances at the band, at the ticket line, at the digital ads. Just straight ahead. Locked. Shadow's muscles tightened. The young man fished a laminated badge from his pocket and clipped it to his vest as he walked. From a distance, the badge looked legitimate enough. It flashed under the overhead lights as he cut through the edge of the crowd toward a gray metal door, marked Authorized Personnel Only. Ethan's jaw worked once. His instincts hummed, a low warning in his chest. "Easy," he told Shadow, but there was no reprimand in his tone. It was a suggestion. A wait. Shadow didn't lunge. Not yet. But his eyes stayed locked on the man like a radar dish tracking a single blip in a storm. Ethan stepped sideways, subtly changing his own vector to keep the man in sight. He watched the distance between the man and the restricted door shrink. Someone laughed nearby. A kiosk attendant called out about discounted sandwiches. The band launched into another song. Ethan heard none of it. "Cole." A voice crackled in his earpiece. "Central Security." You good? Patrol's fine, Ethan replied, eyes still on the vest in the gray case. Be advised, I've got a maintenance worker approaching South Service Corridor 2. Shadow's interested. Stand by for ID verification. Copy that. Maintenance window is clear on our log, but we'll keep an eye. The worker reached the door. He didn't hesitate. He flashed the badge at the stationary camera, punched a code into the keypad with quick, familiar movements, and grabbed the handle. That was when Shadow moved. The German Shepherd surged forward with a bark that cut the station's noise in half. It wasn't a playful sound. It was sharp, commanding, the kind of bark that made human hearts spike and heads whip around. Ethan's grip tightened on the leash, but he let the momentum carry them forward. He wasn't going to drag Shadow back, not when his dog reacted like this. The door's lock clicked as the system authenticated the badge. The handle began to turn. Shadow, heel! Ethan barked not to shut him down, but to keep the lunge controlled. Shadow obeyed on a pivot, but his momentum carried them right into the man's path. The worker froze, eyes wide, fingers still on the handle. What the? He started. Passengers nearby recoiled, instinctively moving away. A woman pulled her child behind her, eyes wide. A station supervisor took 2 hurried steps toward them, hands raised. Officer, is there a problem with your dog? The supervisor demanded, voice tight with forced politeness. Public relations smile, nervous eyes. Ethan showed his badge with one hand, the other steady on Shadow's harness. Central Metro Police, K9 unit, he said. His voice had the kind of calm that settled people and made them nervous at the same time. Sir, I need your employee to step away from that door. The young man swallowed. Up close, Ethan could see the sheen of sweat on his upper lip, the slightest tremor in the tool case. I'm just maintenance, the man said. His voice was too high, too fast. Signal relay check. They called me in. Here. He tapped his badge with his free hand, fingers fidgeting against the plastic. Ethan didn't look at the badge first. He watched the man's eyes. They kept flicking not to Ethan, not to Shadow, but past them, toward the door, as if time itself were pressing against his back. Shadow's barking had stopped, but his body was a coil of tension. His head hovered inches from the tool case, nose twitching rapidly. A low rumbling sound vibrated in his chest. He doesn't bark like that for nothing, Ethan said quietly. Tool case on the ground. Slowly, step away from the door. The supervisor shifted uneasily. Cole, he's on the schedule. I'm sure this is just tool case. On the ground, Ethan repeated, eyes locked on the young man. For a heartbeat, the guy seemed to calculate. Sweat beaded at his temple. Then his shoulders sagged. Okay, he muttered. He crouched and set the case down. His hands shook. Shadow took half a step closer, nose nearly touching the latches. Kick it toward me, Ethan said. The man did, sliding the case across the polished floor. Shadow followed, sniffing frantically, his tail rigid, ears forward. Ethan knelt beside the case. The maintenance supervisor hovered, clearly irritated but now curious too. Sir, what's this about? The man in the vest asked. His voice had gone from defensive to pleading. I have to get this done. They said it's time sensitive. If you don't. What? Ethan asked. The man's mouth snapped shut, his jaw clenched. That's what I thought, Ethan murmured. He flipped the latches and lifted the lid. Inside, nestled in foam, was a compact device about the size of a hardcover book. It bristled with cables and circuit boards, with a small cluster of indicator lights, some glowing a faint, steady green. Beside it sat a small metal canister, marked with a yellow hazard, triangle industrial accelerant. To an untrained eye, it could have passed as specialized maintenance gear. To Ethan, it set your instincts on fire. He felt more than saw the supervisor step back. What is that? The man whispered. Something that has nothing to do with routine maintenance, Ethan said. Shadow let out a sharp bark. nose practically buried in the foam, then pulled back with a low whine, as if the scent itself bothered him. Ethan shut the case firmly and stood. "Central," he said into his mic, eyes never leaving the young man. "This is Cole. I've got a suspicious device disguised as maintenance equipment and a possible coerced actor. I need a secure office and immediate tech consult." "Copy, Cole. Room 2B is clear. Sending keys and routing Dr. Moore to your channel now." The young man's face had gone ashen. "Please," he said suddenly. "You don't understand. If I don't do this, they'll kill her." Ethan's eyes narrowed. "Who?" The man swallowed hard. "My sister." Shadow's ears flicked, the words sinking into the tense air like a weight. Ethan made the call. "Sir, you're coming with us," he said. "You're not going through that door. Shadow, with me." They moved, leaving the door to South Service Corridor 2 unopened, and, as Ethan would learn, that simple act rearranged the rest of the night. The security office on the second level felt small, its beige walls and humming fluorescent lights closing in around the three of them. The young man sat at the metal table, shoulders hunched, fingers running over his palms in restless circles. His maintenance vest lay crumpled on the chair beside him. The laminated badge that had looked so legitimate sat in front of Ethan, next to the gray tool case. Shadow lay at Ethan's feet but wasn't relaxed. His head stayed up, eyes flicking between the man and the door. Every so often he let out a short, impatient huff, like the room itself made him uneasy. Ethan sat opposite the man, a pen in one hand and a blank incident report in front of him, untouched. "What's your name?" Ethan asked. The man hesitated. "Daniel," he said finally. "Daniel Cho." "1. Daniel Cho. How old are you, Daniel?" 22. "You work for the station?" "No." "Who gave you the vest?" Silence. Ethan didn't press. "Not yet." He watched Daniel's face. Fear, guilt, fatigue, all of it sat there in plain sight. But there was something else too. The brittle, hollow look of someone whose options had been scraped down to nothing. Ethan had seen it before. His earpiece crackled. "Cole, this is Dr. Lena Moore. I'm on your channel. I've got the device photos you sent from your body cam. Can you tilt the case toward you a bit so I can see the connectors?" Ethan propped his phone against a mug, camera facing the open case and its nest of electronics. "Go ahead, Doc," he said. On the small screen, Lena's face was half lit by monitors in the background. Behind her, schematics and signal maps glowed on a wall of displays. "Okay, that's not standard maintenance hardware," she said. "That's a relay and spoofing module wired to mimic the rail's signal language. If he plugged that into a junction box at the right node, I could be staring at a live-action train crash, while all my diagnostics tell me it's just a sensor flicker." Daniel flinched at the word crash. "And the canister?" Ethan asked. "Accelerant," Lena said. "Looks like the type used to test fire suppression systems. If it ruptures in a closed area near wiring, it'll burn hot and fast. Post-incident logs could blame a rare electrical fire. Neat little cover for sabotage." Ethan glanced at Daniel. "Who told you where to plug this in?" he asked. "And when?" They did," Daniel whispered. His voice broke. "The messages, the calls. They sent me schematics, photos. They knew the station almost better than the people who run it." "Who's they?" Daniel's eyes filled with tears, but he blinked them away angrily. "I don't know real names," he said. "Just handles. Admin. Courier. They use encrypted apps. They never show their faces for more than a second on video. But they know me. They know where my sister walks home from school. They sent pictures." His voice cracked and fell apart. Ethan felt Shadow shift. The dog rested his chin on Ethan's knee, a subtle grounding weight. "You're a tech student?" Ethan asked. Daniel nodded. "Network engineering. I thought I was just doing freelance security testing at first. Bug bounties. That kind of thing. They paid well. Too well. Then they sent me a job I didn't want. I tried to back out." He laughed once, a sound with no humor in it. "That's when they sent the first photo of my sister," he said. Last week. Ethan's jaw tightened. Doc, he said. What's the timing on that device? Could it be remote triggered? Yes, Lena said without hesitation. There's a local arming sequence, but the packet structure on this thing screams remote access. They could have watched him plug it in and fired it at the worst possible moment. What moment would that be? Ethan asked. On his phone screen, Lena's fingers flew over a keyboard. The rail diagram behind her shifted. There's an express inbound in 40 minutes, she said. North Corridor. Full load, peak hour, moving at max speed through the last tunnel into the terminal. It's carrying a corporate whistleblower under federal escort, see the red icon? If someone caused a signal conflict right there, they could send that train into a stationary one or force an emergency stop that injures half the passengers. And make it look like a freak equipment failure, Ethan finished. Exactly, Lena said. The room seemed to shrink around them. Daniel squeezed his eyes shut. His shoulders shook. I was supposed to plug it in, at South Service Corridor 2, he said quietly. At 1900 exactly. Take a photo, send it, then walk away. They said if I tried anything else, they'd know. You were early, Ethan noted. They told me to be in position, Daniel said. They're watching my phone camera, listening to my mic. They probably saw your dog knock me off schedule 5 minutes ago. Shadow gave a short, uneasy whine and turned his head toward the door, sniffing the base of it, then up along the gap, as if scent were seeping through. Ethan watched him, his gut twisting tighter. Doc? He said. You seeing anything on the grid? Give me a second, Lena said. He heard her tapping. The big displays behind her shifted again. Colored lines blipped. Okay, that's weird, she murmured. I just got a micro spike at junction node J12. She zoomed in. That's under the terminal. Maintenance level. A signal handshake that shouldn't be there, then gone. Like something just announced itself to the system. Shadow moved from the door to a low-wall vent, nose working furiously. His hackles were up now, eyes fixated on the dark slats. Ethan's skin prickled. Where exactly is J12? He asked. 2 levels down. Beneath platforms 3 and 4. Lena said. You've got maintenance tunnels down there. If someone already plugged in a second device, that's where I'd put it, just out of sight, close enough to the core lines to do damage. Ethan stood. Captain Hayes? He said into his radio. I'm here, came the answer. Captain Maria Hayes's voice was crisp, clipped, the command presence that steadied a room. I'm monitoring with Central. Go ahead. I have a coercion victim and 1 sabotage device in custody, Ethan said. Dr. Moore's reading a second anomaly beneath the tracks. I recommend we treat this as an active attempt on the express inbound. I'm heading into the maintenance level to locate and neutralize the second device. Understood, Maria said. I'll lock down South Service Corridor 2 and divert additional units to your entry point. Lucas is in position near the maintenance access. I'll keep this floor clear and handle the media if they smell anything. Her tone softened a fraction. Cole, you trust what your dog's telling you? Ethan looked at Shadow. The dog stared back, eyes bright, body taut with a tension that said, this wasn't over. Yeah, Ethan said. I do. Then go, Maria said. We'll hold the line up here. More. You're his eyes on the grid. Already on it, Lena replied. Ethan turned back to Daniel. We're going to try to stop this, he said. We're also going to try to get your sister back. But I need everything you've got, accounts, usernames, any tiny detail that might help us find them. Daniel nodded, tears streaking down his face. I'll tell you everything, he said. Just, please, don't let that train crash. Ethan reached for the tool case, closed it, and snapped the latches. Shadow, he said. With me. The dog rose in a smooth, ready motion. They left the office. The door shut behind them with a heavy click that seemed to divide the night into before and after. The maintenance access door groaned as it swung open, a breath of cool, stale air rising from the darkness beyond. Deputy Lucas Reed waited beside it, vest already on, flashlight in hand, trying and failing to look casual. A few strands of hair stuck damply to his forehead. Ethan suspected they had more to do with stress than humidity. "Working the glamorous side tonight, huh?" Lucas said, forcing a grin. "I was just thinking, you know what this day needs? Less fresh air and more cramped tunnels." Shadow brushed past him without reacting. The dog dropped his nose to the first graded step of the metal staircase, drawing in a long sniff before descending. Ethan clapped a hand briefly on Lucas's shoulder. "Stick close," he said. "Watch your footing. If Shadow slows down, we slow down. If he stops, we stop." Lucas nodded quickly. "Got it." They stepped into the stairwell. The door shut behind them, cutting off the station noise like someone had turned down the world's volume. Down here, sound changed. It became sharper, more intimate. Each bootstep rang against metal. The hum of electrical lines became a constant undercurrent. Somewhere far overhead, a train passed, the rumble traveling down through concrete like distant thunder. Shadow's tags jingled softly as he led the way, ears swiveling, body low but purposeful. "Cole, I've got your position." Lena's voice came through their earpieces, slightly fuzzier now. "Head straight down one flight. Then the main tunnel runs north-south." The anomaly flared near junction box 12 north side, 50 yards from the stair base. "Copy," Ethan said. They reached the bottom of the stairs. The tunnel opened before them. A long, ribbed corridor of concrete and pipes, lit by tired, yellowish bulbs that flickered at irregular intervals. Cable bundles ran along the walls like thick, black vines. It smelled like dust, metal, old water, and something else. A sharper chemical note clung to the air, faint but distinct. Shadow's pace quickened, his nose swept side to side, then locked on the direction Lena had given. His tail dropped slightly, a sign of focus, not fear, and a low whine built in his throat. "Train traffic is heavy above you," Lena warned. "I'm seeing overlapping paths on the feed. The express in question is 10 minutes out. Currently clear, but if this device starts feeding false data, my view becomes a guessing game." "We'll give you your clean view back," Ethan said. He and Lucas moved at a controlled jog, boots thudding softly. Condensation dripped from one pipe, leaving dark trails on the concrete. The flickering lights turned their shadows into jerky silhouettes. "Hey, Cole," Lucas said quietly, just loud enough to carry. "You ever get used to this?" "What? Tunnels?" Ethan asked. "The part where some lunatic with a laptop thinks derailing a train is a good way to make a point," Lucas replied. Ethan's mouth twitched. "You get used to trusting your partner," he said. "The rest of it, you learn not to be surprised." Lucas let out a breath that hovered between a laugh and a sigh. "Right," he said. "Trust the dog." To a clage, Shadow slowed. His head turned toward a metal door on the right side of the tunnel, its paint chipped, a faded J12 stenciled on it. A faint electrical hum seeped from the seams. Shadow sniffed the gap at the bottom, tail rigid, then backed up. Looking at Ethan, they didn't need words. Ethan signaled Lucas to the opposite side of the door, then tried the handle. It turned, and the door opened inward with a reluctant squeal. Inside was a cramped junction room, barely wider than an elevator, with a single steel cabinet mounted to the far wall. Cables ran in and out of it in thick bundles. A single strip light flickered overhead. The hum was louder in here, a low buzz that made Ethan's teeth itch. Shadow stepped in cautiously, nose working overtime. He sniffed along the floor, the corners, then zeroed in on the cabinet. Ethan approached. The cabinet door was closed but not fully latched. Someone had opened it recently. "Doc," Ethan said. "We're at a junction box in J12. I'm about to open it. Talk me through what I'm seeing." "Go ahead," Lena said. He could hear keyboard clicks behind her words. Ethan pulled the cabinet door open. Inside, the guts of the rail's signal system glowed and blinked. Boards, relays, neatly labeled rows of terminals. Among the orderly chaos, one thing stood out: a foreign device. Smaller than a shoebox, wired into the system with crisscrossing cables that didn't match the installed color scheme. What do you see? Lena asked. Secondary module spliced into your world, Ethan said. It's piggybacking on your main lines and… Yeah, there's something rigged to the chemical feed. He traced a cable with his eyes to a small valve assembly on the lower left, where thin pipes disappeared into the wall. If this fires, Lena said slowly, it dumps accelerant into the conduit and pushes false signals at the same time. Crash plus fire, wrapped in a software glitch. Someone really wanted drama. Shadow's attention, however, shifted. He turned his head toward the open door and stared out into the main tunnel. His body went rigid, nose lifting as if catching a new scent. The low growl that rolled from his chest wasn't for electronics. Ethan felt the hair on the back of his neck rise. Talk to me, Cole. Maria's voice cut in. What's going on? We've got the device in sight, Ethan said, eyes on Shadow. And Shadow says we're not alone. He motioned for Lucas to take cover beside the doorframe. Lucas's face blanched, but he moved. Weapon raised, pointed low but ready. Ethan turned back to the cabinet for a precise, painfully slow moment. Doc, he murmured. I need you to identify which lines are safe to sever. If I cut the wrong thing, I cook this tunnel. He heard Lena inhale sharply on the other end. Okay, she said. See the main bus on the top left? Follow the fourth line down, that's your signal injection. The rig on the lower left with the small valve is your chemical trigger. Do not cross those wires. You need to isolate the power feed to the module first. That's the black lead with the yellow band. Then a new sound cut through the hum of electricity and distant trains. A footstep, soft but very real, out in the main tunnel. Police! Lucas barked, voice echoing. Show me your hands. Ethan didn't look back. He could not with live lines in his hands. He trusted Lucas's training and Shadow's instincts, the way he trusted gravity. Easy, Lucas, he said, keeping his tone steady. A new voice reached them, low and edged with contempt. You idiots never know when to stay out of the way, do you? Ethan heard the scrape of a boot, the tiny metallic squeak of a weapon being raised. Drop the gun, Lucas shouted. Last warning. Last warning. Lucas shouted. The hum of the box seemed to grow louder. Ethan found the black wire with the yellow band. Cole, Lena said urgently. You need to kill that module's power before anything jolts it. That gunshot could… I know, Ethan said. He wrapped his fingers around the wire. Behind him, the stranger's voice shifted closer. You kill power to that box, Cole, the man said, surprising Ethan by name. And my friends assume the kid bailed. They don't need him anymore. They don't need his sister either. Ethan's jaw clenched. Funny, he said quietly. You assume I'm not already planning to come for your friends next. You won't get the chance, the man snapped. Shadow's growl rose to a sharp bark. Gun! Lucas yelled. The world tightened into a strand of seconds. Ethan yanked the black wire free. A spark snapped, small but bright. The module's indicator lights flickered, then went dark. At the same instant, a gunshot exploded behind him. The sound was deafening in the small space, the shockwave slamming into his back and rattling the cabinet. Ethan flinched but kept his hands poised, ready to grab any line that jumped. The bullet struck concrete near the door, breaking off a chip that pinged off the junction box and clattered to the floor. It didn't hit Lucas. It didn't hit the fuel line. It didn't hit the device, because Shadow was already airborne. The dog crashed into the gunman's side, jaws clamping around the man's wrist. The weapon twisted, firing wild. Shadow growled, a furious, controlled sound, his entire body locked with muscular precision as he dragged the man's arm down and away. The gunman screamed, trying to wrench free, but Shadow's teeth held fast. Lucas swept in, boot slamming into the man's knee, sending him crashing to the floor. The gun skidded away, clattering into the darkness. Don't move! Lucas shouted, breathing hard, his weapon redirected to the man's chest. Ethan heard all of it in fragments, like pieces of a recording played too fast. His own heartbeat thudded in his ears. Doc? He asked. There was a pause. He pictured Lena, in the control room, eyes glued to the grid. I'm, I'm seeing the anomaly drop, she said slowly. Signal interference is gone. Main lines are clean. The express is crossing into the zone now. Ethan closed his eyes for half a second. Above them, deep and distant, the sound of a train roared through the tunnel. He pictured it. The sleek bullet of steel and light streaking past harmlessly. The people inside sipping coffee, scrolling phones, dozing in their seats, never knowing how close their world had come to folding in on itself. Train is clear, Lena said. He could hear the tremor in her voice. It's in the station. No collision. No emergency brakes. It's just a train again. Maria's voice cut in, steadier than anyone else's. Good work, she said. Secure your prisoner. We'll talk about the rest topside. Ethan let out a long breath he hadn't realized he was holding. He turned. Shadow still held the gunman's wrist, but his growl had faded to a warning rumble. Ethan stepped in and gave a short command. Out. Shadow released immediately, stepping back but keeping his body between Ethan and the man on the floor. The attacker glared up at them, eyes like chips of stone. You think you stopped anything? He spat. You just delayed it. Chaos doesn't need rails, officer. It finds new tracks. Ethan looked down at him. Maybe, he said. But tonight it didn't get this one. He glanced at Shadow, who met his gaze with steady eyes. Tongue lolling slightly, sides heaving from exertion. Ethan reached down and scratched behind his ear. Nice work, he said. Shadow's tail thumped once against the dusty floor. The conference room on the third floor of Central Metro's administration wing still smelled faintly of coffee and toner when Ethan walked in. Captain Maria Hayes stood at the whiteboard, jacket off, sleeves rolled, a grid of names and arrows already growing in blue marker. At the far end of the table, Dr. Lena Moore hunched over her laptop, screens reflecting in her glasses. Daniel Cho sat in a chair near the wall, a blanket around his shoulders, hands wrapped around a paper cup of water. He looked smaller than he had in the terminal, even the fear seemed to have worn thin, leaving behind raw exhaustion. Shadow lay near the door, within sight of everyone, head on his paws, eyes tracking the room with lazy precision. Ethan took an empty seat. Maria glanced at him, then at Shadow, giving the dog a tiny nod of acknowledgement. All right, she said, tapping the board with the butt of the marker. Here's what we have. Daniel's accounts and Dr. Moore's tracework show repeated contact with a cluster of encrypted handles. We've confirmed money transfers from shell companies linked to a so-called security consultancy that doesn't exist on paper. Their likely footprint touches 3 cities and at least 2 other rail networks. She underlined a single word at the top of the board. Network. This wasn't a one-off stunt, Lena added. The code on those devices was modular. They could adapt it to ports, airports, highways, anything with automated routing. Today was about that whistleblower. Tomorrow it could be about rattling markets or testing how fast we respond. Daniel shifted in his chair. I can help, he said hoarsely. I've seen some of their back end. Not everything, but enough. I know the timing windows they like, the way they write their instructions. I can show you the chat logs. You will, Maria said. Her tone was firm but not unkind. You're going to work with Dr. Moore to give us every scrap of information you have. In return, we're going to push every lever we have to find your sister. Daniel's throat bobbed as he swallowed. Thank you, he whispered. Maria turned to Ethan. You and Shadow stopped the immediate threat, she said. Now we use what you gave us to hit them back before they move their game to another board. Ethan nodded once. He wasn't much for speeches. The train was whole. The people were alive. That was the part his brain clung to first. The rest, the hunt for the network, would follow. It always did. Where is he? Ethan asked quietly. Daniel's sister. We moved her, Maria said. My people got to the location from the last shared photo about 30 minutes after you went downstairs. She's shaken, but safe, and she's under protective watch now. Daniel's shoulders sagged in visible relief. Tears filled his eyes again. But this time, they carried something lighter, like pressure released. Can I talk to her? He asked. You can, Maria said. One call. on a secure line. After that, we coordinate. Understood? Yes, ma'am, Daniel breathed. Later, when the room had emptied out, Ethan stood in the doorway of a small office down the hall. Through the glass, he watched Daniel hold a phone to his ear, shoulders hunched, head bowed. He couldn't hear the words, but he didn't need to. The way Daniel's face crumpled, and then slowly, smooth told the story. Shadow sat beside Ethan, leaning lightly against his leg. Not bad for a day's work, Ethan murmured. Shadow tilted his head as if to say, that's one way to put it. Ethan looked down at him and smiled, the tension in his chest easing. You saw him before any of us did, he said. Before the badge. Before the case. You knew something was off. Shadow blinked slowly. Outside the window, at the end of the hallway, a train slid into the station far below, its headlights twin spears of white in the dark. People stepped off, stretching, checking their phones, already moving on with their lives. They had no idea how close their night had come to being a headline. Ethan was fine with that. The platform was nearly empty by the time Ethan and Shadow made their way back down. The promotional band had packed up. The vendors were wiping down counters. The departure board still flickered with times and track numbers, but the frenetic energy had eased into something softer, the late evening hush between peak waves. Ethan sat on a steel bench near the end of one platform. The metal was cool through his uniform pants. Shadow hopped up, front paws on the bench, then settled with his head in Ethan's lap like he'd done it 1,000 times. For a while they just sat. The air smelled of steel and electricity and the faint remnants of spilled coffee. Somewhere, a janitor's cart squeaked. An announcement echoed about a delayed local train. I almost let him walk through that door, Ethan said quietly, more to himself than to Shadow. If I'd trusted the badge more than you, we'd be having a very different conversation right now. Shadow made a small sound, a soft huff that ruffled Ethan's sleeve. That's the thing about you, Ethan went on. You don't overthink what you see. You don't care about uniforms or IDs or how nervous someone looks because they're late for a flight. You just know when something's wrong, and you don't shut up about it. Shadow's tail thumped once against the bench. Ethan chuckled under his breath. You're not just barking at danger anymore, he said. Sometimes you're barking at people who are already in danger and don't even realize it. He thought of Daniel's face, white with fear, and of Daniel's sister, somewhere safe now because Shadow had decided a maintenance vest didn't smell like maintenance. Upstairs, Ethan knew, someone was probably composing a press release. Maybe tomorrow there'd be a headline about a K9 that saved a train. Maybe a reporter would want a shot of Ethan kneeling next to Shadow, the dog's vest gleaming under a camera flash. It was fine. Let them have their story. This one, the quiet bench, the late train, the weight of a tired dog's head on his leg, this was the one that mattered. The echo of another arriving train floated down the platform. Lights washed across the tiles, then faded as it pulled away. Here's the thing, partner, Ethan said. We live in a world where people hide behind everything. Screens, fake names, even fake jobs. Sometimes it feels like the only honest thing in the room is you. Shadow blinked slowly, eyes half closed, utterly at peace now that the urgency had bled out of the night. Ethan rested a hand on his back, feeling the steady rise and fall of his breathing. That's what makes you dangerous, he said softly. And that's what makes you good. You don't see labels, you see truth. You act on it, even when I hesitate. Shadow's ears flicked at the word hesitate, as if filing it away. Ethan smiled. Tomorrow they'll call you a hero, he said. They'll say you saved a train, stopped a disaster. That, you changed the story. He scratched the soft fur behind Shadow's ear, feeling the dog lean into the touch. But I know you, Ethan murmured. You were just doing what loyalty demands. For a moment, the station around them seemed to fall away, leaving just the two of them, man and dog, partners, sharing a silence that said more than any commendation. In the distance, a late-night train horn sounded, low and mournful, then faded. Ethan rose. Come on, Shadow, he said. Let's go home. The dog jumped down from the bench, tail swaying in a slow, content rhythm. Together they walked along the platform toward the exit, their footsteps echoing softly in the vast, half-empty hall. Behind them, the rails gleamed under the lights, straight, solid, honest lines stretching into the dark. Tonight, they had stayed exactly what they were meant to be.